injuries do they need to tend to right away? In many cases, you will have multiple police agencies who respond to the scene. We have Oswego County Sheriffs and the New York State Police who are responding to this scene. Emergency personnel have determined that Joshua with his amputee is one of the most seriously injured. They need to stop that bleeding right away or he could not survive.
Heavy rescue from New Haven. New Haven Rescue, mutual aid, press for heavy rescue. 3432 Main Street.
The Oswego County Sheriff's deputy is talking to the driver of the blue car, that is Majesta. His job is to determine if there's a chance that she is intoxicated and caused this accident.
50160.
The officer is doing field sobriety tests on Majesta. These are tests that will tell him whether or not she is intoxicated. The most important part of a DWI test is the ability to follow instructions. When you're intoxicated, it's very difficult to follow instructions. So the officer will give her very explicit instructions on what she's supposed to do and test her ability to follow those, along with actually doing the test that he gives her. This first one is called horizontal gaze nystagmus, and it judges how intoxicated you are by the vibration in your eyes, at what angle your eye starts to vibrate. There is no way you can control this, you can't stop it at all, and it's a very accurate test to be able to tell if a person is intoxicated. They've been able to stabilize Josh with his amputation, but they're going to be working very quickly to get him to the hospital. The officer is now doing what's called the walk and turn. He will give her explicit instructions on how many steps she's to take, what she's supposed to do while she is taking them, and then to turn around and repeat the procedure back. The important thing is don't start until the officer tells you to, and you can see that she's already starting to do it before he's even told her. He's demonstrating it so she's very clear and knows what she has to do. As is very common when there are accident scenes, sometimes your emergency personnel is called to respond to a different accident scene. And so that will leave us a little bit short-handed in what they're trying to do here. You will notice that they have covered Dante with a blanket. That's to indicate that he is intoxicated, and there's nothing more that they can do for him. He will be the last one that they remove from the vehicles. Majesta's having a lot of trouble trying to do the different tests that the officer's giving her. This one is a balance test. It's one of the first things affected when you've been intoxicated. And to stand there for 30 seconds with your leg up in the air is very difficult to do when you're sober. Almost impossible when you're intoxicated. You may have noticed that when Majesta got out of the car, she had a cell phone in her hand. She was answering a text at the time the accident occurred, and this will also be a ticket that she is issued. Distracted driving causes thousands of accidents every year. Majesta now is being handcuffed. The officer has determined that she is intoxicated, and he will be taking her back to the sheriff's department for actual breathalyzer tests and to determine the exact level of her intoxication. In order to be able to be a good driver, you need to have three things: manual, visual, and cognitive skills. Manual means your hands on the wheel and your ability to control the car. Visual is that you can see what's on the road and what's happening around you. And cognitive is the mental things that you need to do while you're driving. When you're distracted driving, all three of those things are affected and you're not able to handle a car properly. In 2013, we had over 3,200 people that were killed nationwide while using a cell phone. 424,000 were injured. 11 teens per day are killed because of distracted driving, and 1,161 are injured. 99% of the kids say that they know that distracted driving is a problem, but 35% of it do it anyways. 25% say that they respond to a text every time they get it, and 60% read the text and carry on multi-text conversations. If you're driving 60 miles an hour, you're driving 1 mile per minute. That means you're traveling 88 feet per second. So a 3-second text takes your eyes off the road for over 264 feet. That's almost the length of a football field. A lot of things can happen in that time, and that's what causes the accidents. Some people think that, oh, I'll just hold the phone down on my lap and that way the officer won't see it and I'll still be able to make the calls or text. They still know that you are, and you still can be charged and lose your license or face serious fines as a result of it. They are trying to remove Josh through the front of the vehicle. He has an amputated arm, but they're also not sure of what other injuries he may have. So they'll put him on a backboard and try and keep him from moving as much as possible. We also have the two people who have injuries to their back, one in the back seat of each vehicle, and they're going to take extensive amount of work to be able to get that person out. People who are less than 21 make up 10% of our licensed drivers. They're responsible, though, for 17% of our fatal accidents involving alcohol. There's an average of 6 students per day who die in a DWI accident that's alcohol related. 1 in 10 high school students admit that they drink and drive, and 85% admit that they do binge drinking, which is 5 or more drinks at a time. (17% of our accidents involved young people with a BAC greater than 0.08, and 22% people say that they drive with a drunk driver. The 3 people that drove with this intoxicated driver are facing life-changing things right now because they made the wrong decision to get in the car with an intoxicated driver. Majesta is going to be facing a whole lot of fines and charges as a result of her DWI arrest. The total cost of everything could estimate over $10,000. That's the whole first year of college that's going to be wasted for her. But Majesta probably isn't going to college because she's going to be in jail for quite a while. Because it's very difficult to get Caitlin Lucas out of the back seat of the gray car, they're trying to take off the roof or do something to make it easier, give them a bigger opening to be able to get her out of that vehicle and keep her safe. Anytime that there is a death in Oswego County that does not occur at the hospital or in the presence of someone like hospice, it's necessary for the coroner to come to the scene and do an investigation. The coroner in Oswego County is District Attorney Greg Oakes, and he has arrived on the scene now to help the officers and determine exactly what charges will be filed and what he needs to prosecute this case. He will assist the officers with the investigation and specifically let them know what charges are appropriate for an accident like this. Oh my God! Caitlin appears to be in a lot of pain, but it's necessary for them to get her out of the vehicle, and they're trying to do it with as least amount of movement as possible. I'm assuming that none of you are over 21 in our audience, and for you, it's illegal for you to consume alcohol at all. A .02 to a .07 finds you guilty of consuming alcohol under the zero tolerance law. They will suspend your license for 6 months. In order to get to a .02, could be just one drink. Could be 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or a shot of whiskey. They all have the same amount of alcohol in them, or a 12-ounce wine cooler. All of those will bring you up to violation of the zero tolerance. Your license is suspended for 6 months, and you're fined $125, and you lose your license. You'll have to pay $100 more just to apply for your license. The second time you're convicted of the zero tolerance, your license is revoked for 1 year or until you turn 21. So if you're arrested at 17 under zero tolerance, you don't even get to apply for a license for 4 more years. The crime scene investigators are collecting evidence that will be needed to show that Majesta was intoxicated, the beer cans that are all over the area and inside the vehicle. They'll also be doing measurements and triangulating, everything they need to show exactly how this accident happened and who was at fault for it. As we're sitting here today waiting for them to take these people out, you can't help but think of how many people have been affected by this accident. Can anybody think of at least one person who's been affected? Pardon? Whose mom? Dante's mom. How about the moms of all the people involved in the accident? Dante's mom certainly has lost a child, and so her life is never going to be the same. That goes for his father, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles and cousins. But not just of the intoxicated or the victim who died. There are other people who are facing life-altering things from this accident. with the broken backs, with an amputated or lost an arm, those children's lives are completely changed also. So also all of the victims in this accident are affected by this for the rest of their lives. Anybody else affected? Friends, you guys, classmates. All right, you are going to remember your prom as the one where we lost one person and seriously injured 3 others. When I was in high school, we lost one boy to a DWI accident, and even though it's been more years than I care to think of, you still remember what it's like to lose someone in the year that you graduate. Anybody else affected by this? How about the emergency personnel who respond to this scene? They deal with this regularly, but it never gets any easier. To deal with a death like this of a young person, they may have children their own age at home, the same age as these kids. And so they're affected by this. The police, the fire, medical people. You'll remember, as a police officer, I've been an officer for over 30 years, and I remember every single fatal accident I've ever been to, and having to notify the parents and tell them about it. And it changes you a lot. It makes you very thankful for the life that you do have. So there are many people who are going to be affected by this accident. But this accident didn't have to occur. They could have made other decisions. They could have made some planning ahead to be able to show that what could have happened without making this accident happen. We're going to talk to you inside about having a plan. Make the plan to decide what you're going to do before you get into a vehicle. What are some things these kids could have done rather than have this accident? They could have been sober. Yeah, they could have decided not to drink, right? Or if they decided to drink, how about stay at the party that you were at? Don't leave, right? Only time is going to make you sober up. And so staying there till the next morning would have made sure this accident didn't happen. Anything else they could have done? Called a parent, called someone. Friend, relative, cousin, sister, brother, someone, and say, hey, look, the person I was driving with is drunk, and I want to get home safe, so can you come and pick me up? I don't know of any family member who would say no. There's got to be somebody, and know who that person is going to be ahead of time. Anything else they could have done?
Get a designated driver.
Pardon?
Designated driver.
Have a designated driver. How many drinks can the designated driver have? None. 0. At the point you have a drink, you are no longer the designated driver. And your friends counted on you to be that person. So make sure if you've agreed not to drink, you're the one who is not drinking. They could have called a taxi. They could have rented a limo like a lot of kids do now. In Mexico, you're close enough. You could have walked home. There are a lot of things that you could have done rather than get behind the wheel or get in a car with an intoxicated driver. All of our injured have been removed from the scene and are taken to the hospital. The last person to be removed from the scene is our person who is deceased. Even though Dante is deceased, the fire department will treat his body with the same respect and care that they do for all of the other people too. He will be very carefully removed from the vehicle, placed on a life board to support him until the hearse gets here. We noticed that Josh, who was thrown through the windshield of the car and amputated, obviously was not wearing his seatbelt. How many of you wear a seatbelt when you're in a vehicle? That's good to see. Every hand should be up. I can tell you that it's the only New Year's resolution I ever kept, was to wear my seatbelt. Even if you are in a minor accident, it keeps you in the driver's seat, and it can save your life. 55% people say that they use a seatbelt, but that means 45% don't, and those are the ones who are being injured. In 2014, 7 out of the 19 people that died were not wearing seatbelts in the vehicles in Oswego County. So you could have saved all those lives simply by wearing a seatbelt. You're noticing that they're taking pictures of everything. They mark everything that's evidence that they're going to need. There are going to be multiple lawsuits as a result of this accident. All of the injured parties are going to be suing. Certainly the deceased parents are going to be suing. And so poor Majesta is going to be facing a lot of problems. Every day you make thousands of decisions. What am I going to eat? What am I going to wear? Am I going to go to school? Am I going to do my homework? There are lots of decisions you make that don't have a big impact, but there are some that affect the rest of your life. One of them could be, are you going to wear a seatbelt when you're in a car? That alone could save your life. Another decision is, am I going to drink and drive? Make the decision not to drink and drive, or not to get into the vehicle with an intoxicated person. That's 2 decisions that can alter your life completely in one day. They are now removing Dante's body from the vehicle. He will be placed into a body bag and then placed into the hearse. I'm sure that Dante wanted to have lots of pictures of his prom night. I don't think he expected it to be lying on the ground, covered in blood with injuries. He also would have probably liked to have gone for a ride in a limousine. Didn't expect it to be a hearse that he was going to be going in. Dante will be placed in a body bag, taken to the hearse, and from there he will go to the medical examiner's office in Syracuse. His family not only has to deal with the trauma of losing him at this accident, they also probably are not going to get the body back for a couple of days because they need to do an autopsy to determine the cause of death. So on top of dealing with all of this trauma and death, his family will not even get the body back for several days and be able to plan a funeral. The police officers will remain at the scene for hours, taking measurements and pictures, photographing, and documenting everything that led to this accident. Meanwhile, Josh is en route to the medical examiner's office. Majesta is at the police station being arraigned, and the rest are at the hospital being treated for their injuries. This concludes the outdoor portion of our presentation. When we ask you to be very orderly, get back onto the buses, we'll return to the high school for the inside.